don't believe what I just saw.
This is one of the great moments in the history of baseball.
I believe in miracles. Yes.
Is this the dagger?
September 22nd. Don Shula breaks a hallowed football record. Barry Bonds just breaks baseball. An embarrassing day for the host country at the Olympics. NFL players get replaced by the Montreal Alouettes. Aaron Sorkin hosts sports highlights. The Phillies go on a historic run. Steve Carell commits an unforced error at the box office. And The Undertaker begins an era-defining feud at Unforgiven. These stories and so much more, all on this episode of This Day in Sports.
Wow. Nailed it.
Very
That's right.
good.
Yeah, very good read.
Listen, if you're going to have to mention The Undertaker, you better...
You got to pull it together.
I mean?
Well, we're going to see other people, but I think that was really good. So we'll let you know. For sure. We'll for sure circle back to you at some point. Hey, you know what? Speaking of circling back, yeah, here we are. We're here at Cabin, Barber and Gentleman Supply. Proud to have Cabin on board as our sponsor. Cabin Barber and Gentleman Supply is a fantastic place to get your haircut, get a beard trim, just generally pick up any little thing, accoutrement, if you will, that makes your life better. You got wallets, you got socks, you got ties, you got belts, you got everything. You know, you wouldn't even probably just get a belt here. You'd probably be able to get a Cabin all to make that hole in the belt.
And a buckle.
And a buckle. You
Plus,
can put
hats,
yes,
sweatshirts,
thank you,
scarves, toques, really nicely made, beautifully made stuff.
And still on the belt, you could probably get some kind of material to rub that leather down, you know, like really treat
a
it right.
resin?
Yes, maybe some leather.
Some kind of resin.
Yeah. A dubbin.
Yeah.
Sort of dubbin.
Yeah.
Well, sure, that's true. And as Mike just said, though, I mean, we've worn the sweater on the show before. The hats are all the stuff they've branded with the Cabin name.
Well, they've hats.
There's serious thought that's gone in. Like, you don't have to wear a plain no font "I don't want to get sued" hat, Matt. No. You can actually go out and get a Cabin hat. Our sponsor. But we'll edit in the logo on your hat in post. We'll put it on there. But they are fantastic. It's 3 locations.
Put something really offensive on Kiffin's hat. Just watch him crawl under the bed and die.
This is a blank hat.
Oh man!
I don't know what's going on here.
Well,
but,
it's basically a screen you would project something on. That's what we're talking. What's going on here? Anything of our choice. Well, before we humiliate Matt with what we're going to put on that hat, let's talk about. There's 3 locations for Cabin. We're in the Port Credit location right now. You can also go down there to Union Station if you're in the Toronto area. You can also check it out on Queens Quay. 3 great locations. Get a cut, get a shave, get a ton of compliments when you roll out of there with a Cabin Fresh look. For more, check out cabinforlife.ca. And, we had the sweaters. We got to go for more swag. Louis, who owns this place,
come on.
He's on deck to drop off some more swag.
He sure is.
In no time at all.
hey, Frank? I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going for a hat.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're excited.
Well, yeah, we need to get Matt a hat.
Is he going to get a hat and then put duct tape over the logo?
No. Come on.
Don't mess this up when we get hats, Matt. Matt,
All right.
Listen, this is September 22nd. We're looking at this day in sports. Why don't you kick it off, Matt?
1991, at Joe Robbie Stadium, the Dolphins defeated Green Bay 16-13 to give Don Shula his 300th win of his NFL coaching career. So after 8 seasons as head coach of the Baltimore Colts, Shula left to become the head coach of Miami in 1970, winning 2 Super Bowls and 5 AFC titles. He retired after the 1995 season with 328 wins and remains the winningest head coach in NFL history.
Wow.
I think, though Belichick and Andy Reid may have a shot at passing him.
It might indeed.
Okay, so you have a choice. I think one is obvious to eliminate, but you can go to dinner with Don Shula, Bill Belichick, or Andy Reid. Who are you going to dinner with?
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
Yeah, me too.
Don
Frank?
Shula.
I would go with Shula.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Don Shula would be second.
Yeah, I mean, easily. The distant third.
I think I'd rather be punched in the neck than go to dinner with Bill Belichick.
I think you're right about that. You're right about that.
Yeah, no, Andy Reid for sure. But
yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Shula is the winningest coach of all time. There's no. I don't think people think of him when they think of coaches first. I don't think he's the people think of Belichick, or they think of Lombardi, or they think, you know what I mean, Parcells. Even there are other guys that get thought of, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I mean, he did coach the undefeated season team, too.
He sure did, yeah.
Kind of can't do it much better than that.
I mean, Belichick's just under 300 wins now, I think. So, good
Probably
shot,
gonna get
eh?
there. Oh,
I think
definitely,
Good shot if he
Another
sticks
mediocre
around.
season or two, though. Who knows?
Yeah, Reed is just under 250, so he's got a ways to go.
Really, that far back? Eh? I guess so. Eh? But yeah, okay. So we're 3-1 going to dinner with Andy Reid.
Oh, yeah.
We got to make him a friend of the show.
We have a great
Oh,
time.
yeah.
He is. Yeah, he already is. 2017, Battle of the Sexes, a film about the 1973 famous tennis match between Bobby Riggs and Billie Jean King, was released in American movie theaters today. It starred Steve Carell as Riggs and Emma Stone as King. Both Stone and Carell received Golden Globe Award nominations for their performances, and despite underperforming at the box office, the film has an 85% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it.
If you haven't seen it, it's an enjoyable...
Yeah.
Well, I remember in the opening, it was Steve Carell committed an unforced error at the box office.
Yeah, because it didn't do well at the box office.
Ah, the box office. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Because
I see.
what I said in the intro
I
was
see.
at the box office.
Right.
And so...
Have you heard back yet about the intro? I heard they were going to let people know.
Mike cut the part. We gotta,
Good.
yeah, he's
Oh,
gonna get the final cut.
Okay, good.
He's gonna get the final cut. The other guy, he got hit COVID.
Okay.
Can make it in. I'm sorry, guys. This went somewhere else.
Okay.
This went somewhere else. But anyway, I think we all agree it's a good movie. Frank, you seen it?
No.
Check it out. It's pretty good. Okay. 1946, September 22nd, 1946, Detroit pitcher Hal Newhouser, Prince Hal, threw a complete game shutout in Cleveland, striking out 9 and walking none in a 3-0 Tigers win, giving him 26 wins that season. There was no Cy Young Award at the time, but Newhouser finished a close second in AL MVP voting that year behind Ted Williams. It was almost his third consecutive season winning the award. Almost third consecutive season winning award. Amazing. He won the 1944-45 AL MVP awards and remains the only pitcher ever to win back-to-back MVPs. That is a guy that a lot of people think about. He went from Detroit to Cleveland. He was on the 54 Cleveland team that should have or was favored to win the World Series that the Giants ended up winning. But
nobody will ever... I don't think you'll ever see a pitcher win MVP 2 years in a row either.
No.
Unless it's Ohtani.
Yeah.
But he's not really just a pitcher.
Yeah.
Like you think of like Verlander winning it was pretty rare.
Pretty rare. Kershaw
Yeah,
won it once,
yeah.
but twice in a row it'll never... Because there was no Cy Young Award yet.
Yeah.
It's a great... My grandfather used to ask me this trivia question all the time. There used to be like one guy who had won back-to-back MVPs at every position.
Okay.
And there was like 4 or 5 outfielders.
Yeah,
But
sure.
there was like one second baseman, one, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And Newhouser was the pitcher. And nobody ever gets Newhouser.
No, they sure don't.
Like that, you would guess 100 people first.
But he's got his statue there out in left field at
Yeah, sure does.
Comerica Park, and Prince
earned it.
Hal is a legend if you know him.
September 22nd, 1988, American swimmer Matt Biondi won the gold medal in the men's 100-meter freestyle event at the Seoul Olympics, setting an Olympic record with a time of 48.63 seconds. That year, Biondi won 5 gold medals and lost to 6 by 1/100th of a second. That was the 100-meter butterfly,
Nice.
which is, I don't know how you lose by 1/100th of a second. Apparently, he was caught between strokes approaching the end, and
Okay.
he decided, you have to make a choice, right? So he decided to glide rather than put in another stroke. So,
Whoa.
so just sort of like, you got to make that
On the
decision.
glide, somebody, yeah.
Yeah, and after it, he said, he was like 1/100th of a second. What if I had just grown my fingernails longer?
You said that?
Yeah,
Amazing.
weird thing.
Yeah.
But
Now he walks around with giant fingernails.
yeah, I know.
Going just in
never-
case.
And he has a gold medal from each one of them.
Thank you.
He also won a silver and a bronze, but what an incredible Olympics for him.
Yeah,
bad.
absolutely.
1959, in front of 55,000 fans at Cleveland Stadium, the White Sox defeated the hometown team 4-2 to clinch the American League pennant. Led by future Hall of Famers Nellie Fox and Louis Aparicio, that year's Cy Young Award winner Early Wynn, it was the first time the Southsiders reached the playoffs in 40 years since the drama of the Black Sox scandal, the 8 men out thing. They lost that year's World Series in 6 games to the Dodgers and did not reach the playoffs again until 1983. Woof! That's some lean times for the White Sox fans. That's once in the playoffs in 64 years.
Yeah. Until 1983.
Yeah.
And that 83 team, that's Tony La Russa.
Yeah, that's
managing.
La Russa and Kittle.
Ron Kittle.
Yeah,
Who's
Harold Baines.
Leroy, was it Hoyt?
Lamar Hoyt.
Lamar Hoyt. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lamar
yeah.
Hoyt's there. Yeah, Baines is
Floyd
there. too.
Bannister.
Carlton Fisk.
Yeah. It was a good team.
That was a really good team.
It sure was.
83. Wow.
What a great name Early Win is for a pitcher.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. Late loser.
Not as good.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, late loser. All right. Well, let's go to September 22nd, 1968. Minnesota Twins utility man Cesar Tovar became the second player in Major League Baseball history to play all 9 positions in a game. That sit with you for a second. Facing the A's at home, he started the game on the mound, striking out Reggie Jackson while throwing a hitless inning before moving around the diamond throughout the game. This guy, absolutely incredible, played all these different positions. And I think this is the whole controversy with the MVP, right, with Yaz. Yaz gets all the votes for MVP, but Tovar gets like 1 vote because the guy in Minnesota is like, he played all these positions. He's more valuable to the team. He did this a lot. Like didn't play all 9 positions, but he played every position all the time, moving around everywhere.
Yeah. He
thought he was more valuable than Yaz, who had this otherworldly.
That guy from Minnesota, he's wrong.
He's wrong.
Yeah.
He's definitely wrong. He had a point. He had to fight his entire life to say why he did it.
Yeah.
But that was his reasoning.
But to play all 9 in one game, like, is there a legitimate reason that happens?
Nope.
Like, no, like that
Pretty
becomes
clearly,
a gimmick at
it's
some
the
point.
end of the season. I think the Twins were out of it, and the manager was like, let's do something
Let's just
fun.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's
You
sort of
learn
true.
that a guy can pitch a little bit. So I struck out Reggie Jackson, which a lot of people struck out Reggie Jackson, but nevertheless.
Sure, that's very true. But
cool.
it's a pretty
amazing.
cool number. And Tovar is an amazing player, really is. Yeah. And he's not like one of those guys who's like, he can play every position, but he wasn't that great. He was a great player.
I think he was, yeah.
Absolutely.
Speaking of great players, 1954, Brooklyn pitcher Carl Spooner set a major league record by striking out 15 opposing hitters during his first major league appearance. He also threw a complete game that day, allowing just 3 singles and a walk in a 3-0 Dodgers win. 4 days later, he threw another complete game shutout, striking out 12 Pirates in a 1-0 win. Those were his only 2 starts that year. So, while everything looked very promising for this 23-year-old during spring training of the next year, he entered a game without properly warming up, and he sustained an arm injury. And the injury meant that he was not nearly as effective in 1955 and going 8-6, and he never pitched in the majors again due to ongoing arm troubles. Oof. But like, what a start! I just get that's incredible to me. And apparently, I read after that game, his first game where he struck out the 15 opposing hitters, he and his wife Carol, they came back to the hotel and they saw a bunch of reporters hanging around and they wanted to avoid them. So they did so, but in doing that, they avoided someone from the Ed Sullivan Show. So he might have missed an opportunity to go on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Interesting. You dug deep on that
I
one.
did. I also learned that he inspired the chant in Brooklyn, we should have had Spoona Sooner.
Ah, okay. Carl Spooner.
Carl Spooner.
Yeah, interesting character.
1988, during a preliminary boxing match at the Seoul Olympics, referee Keith Walker cost South Korean boxer Byun Jong-il the second round by deducting 2 points for illegal headbutting. After Byun lost his match to Bulgarian Alexander Hirstov by decision, his coach jumped into the ring and began attacking the referee, striking him several times on the back. He was then joined by several other South Korean officials who were at ringside, and the ref and Walker had to be protected by fellow referees. Even some local security guards joined in the attempts to beat Walker up.
Holy cow.
He left abruptly and went right to the airport to return home to New Zealand after the fight. After the fight stopped, Byun staged his own protests, sitting in the ring directly in front of the NBC TV cameras and refusing to leave, holding up the proceedings for over an hour. Part of the fury of the attack stemmed from the erroneous belief that Walker had officiated the upset defeat the day before of fellow South Korean light flyweight favorite Oh Kwang-soo at the hands of American Michael Carbajal, but he did not even referee that match. They thought they were beating him up about something else as well. He didn't even do it. And there's a great clip, you could find it, of Walker doing an interview with some television crew on YouTube, like you can find on YouTube, live from the airport. As he's like getting on his plane going, this is insane.
I gotta go.
I feel like I remember this. Do you guys all remember,
I don't remember
the
no.
sitting in front?
Yeah, he just sat there and
I
like
think I remember
didn't
that.
let them do
Oh my
anything
God.
for like an hour.
What
Anyway.
a mess.
Yeah.
Frank,
not a good look.
Frank, you remember that?
No, I don't. I'm trying to look it up right now. What was Walker's first name?
Keith Walker.
Keith Walker.
It took a bit of a dig, but anyway, go ahead, Sadie.
That's good stuff, man. September 22nd, 2008, Pat Burrell hits a 3-run home run in the 8th inning as the Phillies defeated Atlanta 6-2. The homer extended a team record 18-game home run streak. September 3rd to 22nd, which coincided with the Phils going from 3 games behind the Mets to 2.5 games in front on this date. Philadelphia won the NL East that year and the World Series as well, getting hot during the streak and never really slowing down. Now, there is a perfect example when they say you get hot at the right time. My goodness. You go from 18 games and you go home run, and that is like kind of streak everyone needs going down to the stretch.
Time means everything.
Yeah. And they were a good team for sure. But that Mets team was also, that's tough, man. The Mets must have been like, stop it. And you know what? They didn't.
They didn't stop.
1998, Sports Night, a television series created and written by Aaron Sorkin, made its debut on ABC. It was a fictional series based on the production of a nightly sports highlight television show, starring Josh Charles, Felicity Huffman, Peter Krause, and Robert Guillaume. Despite being a critical favorite and being nominated for several Emmy and Golden Globe Awards, the show never found a big audience and was canceled after just 2 seasons.
Were you guys fans?
I was.
Fan of the show, and I think it did really well in like DVD sales. It seemed like every sports fan loved this show, and they had that on their shelf at one point. DVDs.
It felt like a lot of people didn't find it until it was gone.
Yes, I would think that's probably true. Yeah,
it just kind of like word of mouth got out, but it was over and done with by the time. But if it doesn't get canceled, there's no West Wing. So
there you go.
That's true.
I don't know if you remember any favorite moments. I think it might have been one of the first episodes where the guy who's like given the highlights package. He's in charge of the highlights package, and he comes back, and it's 6 minutes long for one game. And they're like, you can't have 6 minutes. He's like, there's just so many stories in this game. He's like, it can't be 6 minutes for one game. It was like a Cubs game or something. Like, he has to go back and edit it all down. So
I was also surprised as ABC because I think of NBC. He had such a long relationship with the West Wing there, and also Studio 60.
It should have been an HBO show, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah, that would have been great.
Yep.
I mean, it was great as well.
In a different era, yeah.
Yep.
1987, seeking a new policy in regards to player-free agency, the NFL Players Association went on strike today, forcing the owners to scramble to use players from the recently folded USFL and the Montreal Alouettes, which had folded that year in the CFL, if you remember, as well as some former college players. The dispute was not settled, but the players returned to play 24 days later. The league played 15 of 16 scheduled games that season, with three of them played with replacement players and just one game canceled. Among the star players who crossed picket lines and played with the Scrubs, Doug Flutie, Joe Montana, Randy White, and Steve Largent.
Steve Largent.
Oh,
man.
Future U.S. Senator.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Joe Montana, say it ain't so.
Do we have 2 in a row that are me here left, or you guys?
I think we do.
You did? Okay. Well, it's important one I got to get to, but
But I mentioned the Bonds one, so you got to do that too.
Damn, well, here we go.
Okay.
A double shot.
Double shot. Okay, this is a double shot. In 2002.
In case you wondered.
Well, I'll go 2004 first because we can lead into something later. But 2004, for the second time that season, Giants outfielder Barry Bonds was intentionally walked 4 times in a 9-inning game. During a game versus Houston and San Francisco, Bonds had just one official at bat and hit a triple. Though the Astros lost the game 5-1, their strategy versus Bonds worked. Despite reaching base 5 times in the game, he did not score a run that day. Bonds was then and remains the only player ever to draw 4 intentional walks in a game. I talked about before how often Bonds didn't even get to swing his bat in some of the games, and then he would do it and he'd hit a home run. It was like it's just unbelievable.
It's absurd what he did.
Those numbers, the on-base percentage, all those things. But let's get this double shot wrapped here, because in 2002, at the first Unforgiven pay-per-view event from the newly rebranded WWE, no longer the WWF, The Undertaker faced Brock Lesnar in front of 16,000 fans at LA's Staples Center. Both men were disqualified in the match, but their feud became one of the most famous in wrestling history, culminating with Lesnar ending The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak of 21 consecutive WrestleMania wins at WrestleMania 2014 at the Superdome in New Orleans. Now, we don't talk about wrestling a lot. We don't know a lot about it, and that's why we're going to circle back on our draft and have a wrestling-themed draft. That's correct. And probably get schooled by our judges just for us not knowing anything. But it's going to be worth it.
I feel pretty confident because our wrestling draft is 80s based. So I feel pretty good that I'm going to have like at least some working knowledge to be able to do that. But yes, I have a feeling our guest will know a lot more than us. Yes,
easily.
Let's go to quick hits.
Quick hits.
Quick hits.
Yes.
Quick hit. Texas. Oh, sorry. I'll tell you when it happened. 1977. Ooh. Quick hit. Texas pitcher Bert Blyleven threw a no-hitter versus the Angels at Anaheim Stadium in a 6-0 win. It ended up being his final start for the Rangers. The future Hall of Famer struck out 7 batters and allowed just 1 walk in the game. He was traded to Pittsburgh that offseason after an incident where he gave a live television camera the finger.
Bert.
I don't remember that. Do you? You remember that happening?
Mid-70s. No, I don't.
Allegedly.
The Dutchman gives the finger.
1987, just a few days after turning 16, Switzerland's Roger Federer made his debut on the ATP World Rankings computer with a ranking of 803. More than 6 years later, he would reach the #1 spot on those rankings, a position he would maintain for longer than any other player in tennis history.
Quick hits. Philadelphia second baseman Eddie Collins in 1912.
Okay,
he's going to segue that way. Philadelphia second baseman Eddie Collins in 1912 became the first and only player in MLB history to steal 6 bases in a game more than once, when he nabbed 6 bases without being caught during an 8-2 win over the Browns in St. Louis. Collins stole 63 bases that year and finished his Hall of Fame career with 741. He is currently 8th all-time in steals in MLB history. We talked about the Browns last episode, and
Eddie was picking on him that day.
They stink then too.
Quick hit. 2012. Old Dominion University quarterback Tyler Heineke set an NCAA Division I record by throwing for 730 yards in a game. He led the Monarchs back from a 23-point third quarter deficit to defeat New Hampshire 64-61. Sandy, I believe you said this on the last episode, but that can only happen in college, right? Yeah. You're not
Feels
that
see,
way. Well, no. Hey, maybe we will see it one day.
No, it's just the discrepancy in who you play. I mean, it's in the NFL, at least you have a sort of parity. But in the college, you can play a real crap
And when you're a football powerhouse like Old Dominion,
but at least it wasn't like a blowout, it was a 64-61 game, which is a wild score.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
that's
like
the kind of game you need for those numbers. Though.
Yeah, it wasn't like 84 to 13.
Yeah, we've seen those crap scores
that.
in college. It's kind of what's a turnoff for college at times for me. It's just like early season. I'll watch the bowl games and that, but some of the early season stuff, you're like, why am I watching this?
I know.
Yeah.
1985, during a drunken brawl in a Baltimore hotel that started in the bar and then moved into the hallways, New York Yankees pitcher Ed Whitson broke the arm of his manager, Billy Martin. During the fracas, Whitson suffered a cracked rib and a split lip. Martin was fired by the Yankees before the next season started and replaced by Lou Piniella. Whitson pitched just 2 seasons in the Bronx.
Man, that is some rough and tumble. Man,
yeah, I know. Come in the next day to the clubhouse. Like, what happened last night? I went to bed.
No big deal. Wow. September 22nd, 1957, Dodgers center fielder Duke Snider's 39th and 40th home runs of the season hit during a 7-3 win over the Phillies were the final 2 homers hit in the history of Ebbets Field. There were just 7,700 fans in attendance to see the game. The Dodgers second last in Brooklyn before leaving for L.A. in the offseason. This is like last episode. We were talking about like Frank Robinson plays. Barely any fans are there at the end and all these, man.
Yeah, it really ends the way you'd like it to.
Well, I tell you, the Dodgers at that point had lost all goodwill.
Well, yeah.
No one was coming down to the park at that point.
Do you want another round of quick hits, or are we moving on?
What are you feeling, Matt?
Quick hit!
Okay, I know what you're feeling.
All right, let's say, and then I scrolled. Let's say it was 1912. Philadelphia second baseman Eddie Collins became the first and only player in MLB history to steal...
Sandy has already read that.
Oh, my God.
So you fought to do another round, and you're making jokes about me not getting invited back.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
But you know what? This show's all about redemption, Matt. Why don't you go ahead, kid, and just pick another little quick hit out of the candy drawer there.
Thanks, mister. We did a 1985 already, but this 1985...
is a new one.
Is a new one. Oh, gosh, I don't even know if it is. A 1985, on their way to clinching the National League West.
There you go.
The Cardinals won the 9th game of their last 10, putting them 3 games ahead with 2 weeks left. The weird thing of this is that all 9 of those games were won by different St. Louis pitchers.
1985, on their way to losing the World Series.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Don taking your... Also 1985. During a game in Cincinnati, the Chargers came back to win 44-41. San Diego running back Lionel James was the star of the game, finishing with 127 rushing yards, 118 receiving yards, and 77 kick return yards. And the Little Train, as his nickname was, also had a 100-yard kickoff return TD called back because of a flag.
Damn.
Hey.
Well, let's close out. Quick hits!
Oh, God.
In 1973, September 22nd, 1973, Orioles outfielder Al Bunbury hit 3 triples in a game against the Brewers, tying an MLB record. That season, Bunbury was named American League Rookie of the Year. If you're tuned into last episode, you know we did baseball rookies of the year, and this guy, what a great year. Yep. And went on to win a World Series and be an all-star in Baltimore, playing 13 of his 14 MLB seasons in Charm City with that great, especially defending outfield in Baltimore. They were so good in the 70s, and Al Bunbury, huge part of that, of course. Hey, Matt, any birthdays you want to celebrate?
Absolutely. Thanks, Sandy. Happy birthday to a really special guy.
Special guy.
In 1966,
Special guy.
long time
Eddie Collins.
New York Rangers goalie. No, this is longtime New York Rangers goalie Mike Richter. He's also the 94 Stanley Cup winner, of course. Was born in Abington, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
1997, 2022 World Series and ALCS MVP, Astros shortstop Jeremy Pena in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. And 3 years earlier, on the same day in 1994, former number 1 overall MLB draft pick Carlos Correa in Puerto Rico. Ironically, Jeremy Pena, the guy who replaced Correa in the Astros lineup.
Yes,
they have the same birthday.
1927, September 22nd, 1927, longtime LA Dodgers manager Tommy Lasorda was born in Norristown, PA.
Always reminds me of Fletch when the police chief's got all those photos of him with all. Hey, is that Tommy Lasorda? I hate Tommy Lasorda.
1961, 6-time National League stolen base champ Vince Coleman was born in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, yes, he was. In 1934, NCAA champion head coach, men's basketball head coach, and champion Lute Olson was born in Mayville, North Dakota.
What a great name.
Yeah.
1942, longtime NBA Commissioner David Stern in Manhattan, New York.
Oh, yeah.
1987, former number 6 overall NHL draft pick Derek Brassard was born in Hull, Quebec.
I guess I could do one more birthday before we get to... We like to tie things up with a good death. Longtime Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver Harold Carmichael, born in Jacksonville, Florida.
All right, and just before we get into our wrestling draft, let's talk about 2015 Hall of Fame catcher, Purple Heart Award winner Yogi Berra at the age of 90. Not a bad run for old Yogi.
A great American life.
A great American life, Yogi Berra. And we're going to take the next 3 hours to look back at that. Matt, you kick it off.
Get comfortable. Well, it started with Eddie Collins.
Yes. Oh, wow, it has to.
1912.
Yogi. Okay, friends, we're going to get into this draft. The premise of the draft, well, first of all, is that we don't have a lot of knowledge about wrestling, and we are unapologetic in a way about it, and also a little apologetic on the other hand, because we always say there's hardly enough in here. And we get a lot of people asking us to do more of this. So basically, we thought, well, what do we know the most about? Probably the 80s WWF. So we're going to make this an 80s WWF draft, and there's going to be certain categories.
Which were given to us by our judge.
Yes, that's right.
He gave us 5 categories.
Five
that we had
categories.
to each make a pick from.
That's right. And so I've got the dice rolled here. It is Matt 1, Mike 2, me 3.
And the 5 categories, before we start, we should say are best good guy, best bad guy, best female wrestler, worst gimmick, and best entrance music.
Yes.
All from the 80s WWE, WWF, as it was called then.
My thinking is because there's all these categories, the draft order should sort of be like a snake draft. Like Matt will go first, then you'll go second, I'll go third, and then maybe it's just back 3, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? You'll always have the middle. Is that okay?
No.
This is the first time we're... So
why
because
are
you're
you
third,
initiating this now?
Because third,
every round he's going to get first pick on every category.
No, he's not.
That's how it
I'll
always
go
works.
in a different category.
But,
We've done this before.
I thought we were going to do categories and then go through them all, just so it's less confusing.
Oh.
Hey, Louie's here.
Louie's here.
Louie, this is the owner of Cabin, the fine establishment we're in right now, one of 3 locations, of course. This is a mystery appearance by Louis. Louis, did you put Frank? You should go. You should let Louis go in your camera for a second, so the crowd's going to see the mysterious Louis,
Our sponsor.
Our sponsor. Have a seat, Louis.
You'll be in the frame right.
Yeah, just to say a quick chat. Hey guys, Louis here. Louis, thank you so much for being our sponsor here at Cabin. Louis, how has your summer been? What's coming up for you?
Well, listen, first of all, you're more than welcome. Happy to have you guys. Really, I am. And summer's been great.
Good. Well, we appreciate letting us being here. We try to name several products. What would you say are the 3 biggest things you want people to know about in Cabin besides haircuts and beard trims?
Underwear, socks, bow ties.
Done. Okay, there it is.
We went hard on belts today.
We did go hard on belts.
Oh, room spray. That's a good one, too.
Room spray is good.
One.
Well, I'll tell you, we went hard on belts today, didn't we?
Yeah,
Talked
we did.
about belt buckles.
We
Really went for it.
push belts and toques.
We can work in the room spray.
We did. Well, Louis, we're about to do a draft for WWF 1980s wrestlers. Did you have a favorite in the 1980s?
Yeah,
era?
Hogan, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
That's a
all
good
right.
choice.
I hear what you're saying now, Sandy. If you want, I can do this. We can go category by category. I don't mind that if you want
Okay.
to. Do
Whatever, yeah, sure.
Why don't we just each take a turn going first? So we'll go
Sure,
like
yeah.
first 2,
Yeah.
3, then 1, 2.
Okay,
Okay,
sure.
excellent.
Okay, so I get to.
I like what you're doing.
Louis, thank you so much for stopping by. Louis was just shooting down the hall. There he is. That was awesome. That was like Bob Hope stopping in
I
at
know.
Johnny Carson.
The man.
I was just shooting someone down the hall. I thought I'd stop
thought I'd
in
come
for a
by and
minute.
say hi.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Admittedly, I don't. We've already sort of had the disclaimer that our knowledge is not vast on this topic.
Absolutely. No.
I'm going to. One of the topics or one of the categories was best female wrestler.
Let's start there then. That's
gonna
cool.
start there.
I like the idea that the person
kinda-
is first will shoot out the category.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
And I am going to pick Wendy Richter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm picking her because she represented Cyndi Lauper in that famous, feud against Captain Lou Albano.
Yeah.
So Wendy Richter is my pick. She's also a 2-time WWF Women's Champion.
She is.
Nicely done.
Okay, I'm going to make this pick only because I want to see who Sandy picks as the third person in this. So the only other person for me would be the fabulous Moolah, who,
Yep.
of course, was a famous heel in the
Yep.
80s. I think she held the women's belt for decades. She was sort of the dominant force in the WWF women's game for a long time, and Wendy Richter's arch rival. And if you watch some of the documentaries that our guest has produced, apparently not a very nice person, but nevertheless, she's my pick as the best female wrestler of the era.
I think it's a good choice. And
And I want to see who's going to be third.
No, absolutely. I'm just going to go ahead. And it's a little slant because it's mostly a manager, but Miss Elizabeth. I'm going to go with Miss Elizabeth because that is actually, when I was just thinking of like female wrestler 80s, the first person that came to mind. And then when I dug in, I was like, oh no, I remember Moolah, I remember Richter. These 3, by the way, the first, only maybe 3 that honestly I was like, I know these people are.
Yeah.
But she to me was like, that says to me 80s wrestling. I know she's mostly a manager, but I got to give it to her with
Her
Macho Man and Randy Savage and all
Okay.
that sort of stuff.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah, I'm going to go with Miss Elizabeth as my choice. Now, Mike,
Yep.
you would be
Next-
first to go in the next
next
category. So you
category,
can
okay.
name the category.
Okay, so
right?
my category then is going to be the worst gimmick of the 80s. And my pick is going to be one of the headline matches of WrestleMania 2 was Mr. T versus Roddy Piper in a boxing match, which ended with Piper getting disqualified and slamming the referee. I saw it live. It was the lamest, worst thing it was so terrible. Clearly, they can't really hit one another. They just kind of stand around stalling it's terrible. And because I remember it, I picked that.
Okay, I don't want to dive too deep into my pick. I think it's going to stand for on its own when you just have to know Akeem the African Dream was a white guy.
Oh.
Akeem, the African Dream, was a white guy, and if you go back, you dig into the Google search of him, it absolutely would not stand in 2023. Should not have stood in whatever year it came out. But
I don't even remember this.
Akeem, the African Dream,
I do.
yeah, horrible.
Oh no, I do remember
what's
this.
so weird is back in the 80s, you were kind of like, oh, okay,
sure,
this is kind of a fun story.
Makes sense.
Not really.
It was the same guy who was the one-man gang, right? It's the same dude.
Correct,
They just
one-man
gave him
gang.
a different gimmick.
Yeah, he became Akeem, the African Dream.
Oh, that's right. Very
It's
good.
so brutal.
It's very good.
But that's my bad
Oh, and
worst
he's wearing
gimmick.
the yellow
It's all
hat
bad.
and the-
Like, it never gets better. It never gets better. They had like a ceremony to like make him like officially African. It had weird stuff.
Are you?
Oh,
Okay.
fantastic.
know what it
Are you sure that of his?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can dig in
George
deeper,
Gray.
but
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Okay. For my worst gimmick, I chose a wrestling gimmick, and this one is just like, I remember being a kid and just not being really interested by IRS.
Oh,
like
yeah.
a guy whose kind of thing was taxes.
Yeah.
It was just, kind of boring for kids, I
Yeah.
think.
yeah. I think
Kids don't hate the taxes yet.
No. So
He
I
wrestled
was,
in a shirt and
Mike
tie.
Rotunda.
and it had a briefcase,
Like, yeah,
didn't
yeah,
he? And
briefcase.
so it
did.
just wasn't. Maybe it's it just felt flat to me.
Yeah.
As a child.
Understand.
The tax collector.
he slipped into the 90s. He was kind of like end of the 80s.
But Rotunda was around
he was
the
in the
80s.
80s.
Yeah, but he was there, but I do-
Rotunda or
Well, no, Rotunda. That guy,
IRS
how
was
many
in
gimmicks
the,
did that guy have in total? But no. Listen, I think IRS. That was like the weirdest one for sure.
Yeah.
That, and they had the whole backstory, like he was a former IRS guy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you're clearly like, that's Mike Rotunda. Like, you just put fake glasses on him and a tie. Like, we
I like
know.
that pick a lot.
Much
I like
in the
that pick
same
a lot.
way we knew Akeem was the one-man
Oh
gang. But
God, so brutal. You
Anyway.
know what? I'm doing this for Louis. I'm going straight to the good guy. I'm just gonna go right and say I'm gonna go Hulk Hogan because nothing says 80s wrestling more than Hulk Hogan. So I
Indeed.
think it's an easy pick. I know, but Louis was here. Louis said it. Let's grab it.
Okay.
I'll go Hulk
But
Hogan
he
first
did-
pick and
hold
good
on,
guy.
I saw this thing here earlier. He did have a gimmick where he came back as something America, and he had a mask, but it showed his mustache.
Oh my God. Oh yeah.
great.
Horrible gimmicks. There could be a lot more than 3. That's for damn sure.
yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
a
there's
judge
a lot
will
of
come
bad
up with
ones.
more of that.
Okay, it's me for
Yeah.
best good guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know much about the person or the I just remember liking Tito Santana.
Yeah. Good pick.
I think he is a really good guy, too. I think most people say that about him.
Good.
It's
And he
tough.
Glad to have
he
him
was
on my
a-
squad.
He was an intercontinental champion for years.
I think Matt's always nervous to mention liking somebody he doesn't know enough about, and that was a big moment for Matt.
Really broke through there. For my favorite good guy, I'm going to take Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
Okay.
He
Good
was
and
like,
bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went bad eventually, but he was a good guy for a long time. He was like the guy nobody could beat. Obviously, he was just so huge. Plus, Princess Bride is in the 80s. He was so funny and great in that. So I'm going to take Andre the Giant as my good guy.
Because he was good in the 80s, right?
Yeah, like he turned
was good
heel
and bad in
later
the 80s.
against
Yeah.
Hogan.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was a good guy for a long time, and he fought Big John Studd for a long time.
Oh wow. Oh yeah. That was a big
They used to
rivalry.
have all those fights, and John
Yeah.
Studd would always claim that he could slam Andre the Giant, and he couldn't. It was great. It was great.
Good pick.
Matt, what's the new category?
Oh, geez. Okay. Let's go with, it's mine now. So let's go with, we've got a couple left here. Let's go with worst bad guy. Or is it best bad
Best
guy?
bad guy.
bad
Yes.
Best bad guy.
Sure. The heel.
They heel. You know who was a heel who seemed to really annoy people? Was Ravishing Rick Rude.
Yeah, that's
Great.
great pick.
So good.
You know?
I used to love that. He'd yell, I want all the fat, ugly guys to sit down. Let me show your woman what a real man looks like. He'd take his robe off.
Oh my
It's
God.
so good. That was like
He
one of
was
the
an
best
antagonizer, was he
One
not?
of the
He
best
was-
Oh,
bits
yeah.
ever. It's
Oh,
such
yeah.
a good pick. And he was in unbelievable shape, too, right?
Yeah.
But he,
I mean,
he
hope
would
so.
literally say that every
Yeah,
time.
and the mustache, it all
So
worked.
good.
It just,
That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
My favorite bad guy of that era was Mr. Perfect. I loved him. He was like, I loved all those. Remember they shot all those promos where like he'd play baseball with Wade Boggs
Yeah.
and be like a better hitter than Wade Boggs, and like he was like good at everything, and he was just like, I loved that like he never made any mistakes. He was so arrogant. Blonde hair, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I just thought he had a kind of perfect deal going. I was torn between a couple guys, but Mr. Perfect, I just kind of have a soft spot in my heart for that. I thought he was great.
That's a
And he
great
was
choice.
good on the mic, too.
yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Mr. Perfect's my guy.
Well, I feel like I've gone down the straight and narrow with Hulk Hogan on my pick, and I'm going to do the same with the heels. I got to go with Roddy Piper.
Yeah, that was who I was
I
debating.
feel like if we don't pick him, whoever's judging this is going to eviscerate us. I mean, I just feel it. You have to do it. What a legend.
No, he is maybe the great heel of
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was fantastic.
He absolutely was. And He had that like piping music. We're going to talk about entrance music soon. That could be on the list there for best entrance
crazy
music.
too. Like you kind of felt like he was the guy who'd fight 10 guys at once.
Yeah.
And Piper's Pit, right?
Yeah. Piper's Pit.
He had Jimmy Snuka in the head with the coconut once. And
that wasn't cool.
Yeah, no.
Not. Yeah, no. I mean, that's one of the, and you said guys on the mic. I mean, one of the best.
Really good. Yeah, for sure.
So Roddy Piper, and then we're going down to entrance music.
This is the last category.
Oh, this is the last category. Yes, thank you. This is Mike.
This is me.
Yep.
And for me, there's no debate. The best entrance music is Pomp and Circumstance, Randy Macho Man Savage.
Yep.
Every time you heard that, it's fantastic that he chose a piece of classical music to be his. Like everybody else had these stupid, sort of fake theme. Like he played Pomp and Circumstance and like strolled out in the giant robe with Elizabeth with him. It was glorious. You always knew the instant you heard it who it was. I thought it was sort of next level, like in the sort of arrogance of it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And as you said, it's completely countered everything else that was out there.
So that's my Macho Man for me. That's the pick.
I'm going with more traditional music on my pick, and there's a reason I picked Unstable, which was Ultimate Warrior's entrance. And the reason I chose this was because I was kind of debating, and we don't know a ton about the sport. I mean, Matt maybe knows most of the three of us. Ooh. I'm digging around, looking at who I think I might take, and then when the Ultimate Warrior passed away, as a tribute on YouTube, somebody released Unstable, the 1 hour version. This is a 4-minute song, 3-minute song tops. I would say 3 minutes tops, actually. It's just like power guitar. And this guy morphed it into a 1 hour version. And that alone to me was enough to pick it. Because I was like, does it get different? Does it go just scanning ahead half an hour? Sounds the same. 45.
Get comfortable, folks.
It's not really looping. It's just kind of a different. Anyway, I'm going. That's right.
Cue that up, Frank.
Let's go ahead and do that. Unstable, the Ultimate Warrior's entrance song.
All right, I'm picking the last entrance song. And so I've got two. I'm going to pick one, but I'm going to tell you my runner-up because I didn't know about this song before, but I was listening to some songs. And if you've never heard Strike Force, that's Tito Santana and Rick Martel, their entrance music is called Girls in Cars. And it's kind of like an 80s song, and it's incredible. Yeah. But so shout out to that. Kudos to them for that, and please check it out. But I have to pick, if I'm going to pick one, I got to pick the Demolition. Because it's the only one I still kind of remember. You know, like Here Comes Axe, Here Comes Smasher.
So Demolition. The Demolition is your pick.
The Demolition is my pick.
But you want people to check out the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Now, I was really shocked nobody picked The Junkyard Dog Grab Them Cakes.
No,
that's a very important song.
I mean, a real American Hulk Hogan.
Jimmy Mouth of the South Heart, Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield. Nobody picked that. It's a great one. Very important song.
Oh, I remember that now.
Now, is that the song that was on the album?
Yes.
That was
on the WWF album that came out.
Or
that every kid got for birthday.
I'm surprised, and again, our hosts our judges may have more, but also just The Undertaker, like hearing the bells.
Yeah. You know the bells?
80s. Yeah.
Oh, he's not 80s.
No,
okay,
but you're right. That is it.
Okay.
Because I thought of that too.
Yeah.
There were some definite misses, and we're definitely going to get some feedback from our judging. Yep. And let's get right to it. All right. We're going to be harshly judged, I'm sure, coming up here for probably our lack of knowledge. Who knows? But we have two fantastic judges, starting off from parts unknown by way of Thornhill, Ontario, Canada, weighing in at 2 ounces and an extra 1/8. He is a former 3-time Hebrew School paper straw weight champion of the world, a man who missed his bris, the sensational, stunning, sweet and sour power superstar, Little Daddy Cool, the people's champ, Beef Stu Stone. Welcome to the show, Stu. And your second judge, Nahrgang, is an award-winning actor, writer, and improviser, as well as a huge wrestling fan. He was a panelist on Sportsnet's Aftermath for 8 years, talking all things WWE, and is currently the general manager of Greektown Wrestling, as well as play-by-play commentator. Coming down the aisle from Clinton, Ontario, Canada, weighing none of your business, New Wave, Nahrgang.
That's right, baby. The new wave of wrestling is here.
Thank you both for being here. We have never on this day in sports had two judges at the same time, but in the spirit of wrestling and tag teams, we thought, why not have the two of you come on, the wrestling experts? We talked a little. Nug's got the background I gave you in the intro, but Stu, you're also working on Dark Side of the Ring, correct?
Yep, I've been
I've done 30 episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, and I'm ready to unleash on you guys.
And I'm assuming you went to sleep an hour ago.
I went to sleep about 10 minutes ago.
Nug is bright and early. He's a father. You got to be up early when you're.
I got to be up early. We had a week off of daycare. She's out the door, and this is the first time I've been alone in the house since June.
Oh, perfect.
And you're spending it with us. Good call.
Yeah, and then I'm going to shut everything down and just sit in silence for an hour and a half.
Great idea. Great idea. Like a dark room, like you're in concussion protocol. Perfect.
Very nice.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for being here. We're going to jump into these lists. We made 3 teams, of course, of who we felt fit the categories that you gave us. We had the good guy, the heel. What specifically is the term? If you say the heel, obviously we know is the bad guy, but good guy, is there another term we should really be saying there?
Baby face.
Yeah.
Baby face. Okay, perfect. So that's the baby
That's
face.
right. Yeah, like Stu. He's a baby face.
And we wanted to have a female wrestler represented, the entrance music, and then the worst gimmick. Just kicking it off, let's talk about maybe some of those baby faces. Maybe we'll talk about that first category, the baby faces. Any thoughts on the 3 there?
Well, I see Hulk Hogan on the list. I don't think you can argue Hulk Hogan is certainly in the conversation as far as top babyface of the 80s. What's interesting to me is that Andre made the list where he was a big babyface in the 70s and then did a big heel turn in the 80s. So that's interesting to me. And also, I guess this is where I come down on somebody. Why the hell is Tito Santana on this list? There's a handful of other guys you could have picked. Anybody else from the Rock and Wrestling cartoon gets picked before Tito Santana. Junkyard Dog, Hillbilly Jim. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat should be on this list. And yet somebody went with a heart pick and picked Tito Santana.
He was part of Strike Force, wasn't he?
with Rick Martel, who then, after they broke up, arguably had a better career as the model.
I couldn't remember a lot of guys, or whoever that person,
or whoever picked that team, or whoever picked that team.
That was quick, Matt. Well, Matt's looking for a logo for his hat, so maybe we'll put we'll put Tito on there.
Get the old Strike Force logo on there.
There you go. Well, that song, it's not in the theme songs, but it came very close to getting the pick. That Girls in Cars, man, that was a great.
Robbie Dupree.
Robbie Dupree sang that, and written by Jimmy Hart.
It felt like a real 80s song. Anyway, we won't get too into songs just yet. But
sure.
That should have been
I can already tell we are way out of our league here.
That song should have been a category, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. It is a category, Stu. So you're keeping up. That's great.
He just woke up.
He did. Stu, I'm gonna.
First off, I'll say, Hulk Hogan is definitely like the low hanging fruit pick, and probably the number 1 pick. It should be, like, whether you love him or you hate him, like, he's the reason why we're even here having this conversation. If Hulk Hogan isn't a quote baby face in the 80s, then there's no wrestling, because this guy really was the number 1 babyface. I do respect my tag team partner in his choice of mentioning Ricky Steamboat, who is the guy that the wrestling fans would say, because he's a guy that had, a 100-year career and never worked as a bad guy. So he would be the consummate babyface. But for the 80s, I would say Hulk Hogan's probably a good pick. Andre the Giant, I agree again with my tag team partner. That's a bizarre choice due to the fact that he spent the more famous part of the 80s, I would say, as Hulk Hogan's rival. The biggest show in the history of professional wrestling at that time had Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. And Andre,
in defense of whoever made that pick, WrestleMania 3 was in 1987.
That's fair, but
there was
the work in 1987 though erases specifically the years that came before that, because wrestling fans in the 80s had very short attention spans as far as their memories go.
Yes.
Well, not only that, but WrestleMania 3 being 1987, WrestleMania 1, 1985, Andre was long-haired babyface Andre from all through the 70s, and then for 5 years of the 80s, people remember blackstrap bad guy Andre way more than long hair. No one can body slam me, Andre.
True.
Yeah.
And on the note of the nobody can body slam me, Andre, like I was saying, the wrestling fans in the 80s were treated like they don't remember what happened yesterday, because Andre the Giant had obviously been body slammed dozens of times prior to WrestleMania 3, but they told us that he'd never been body slammed, and we just believed it.
And Hogan and him never fought, and yet they fought a billion times.
They even fought at Shea Stadium, for crying out loud. So it's like, I would. That's why I don't go with that argument. That BS argument that Mike just made. But I would say also Tito Santana.
Keep it clean.
A place in my heart. I got the Tito Santana shirt.
Nice.
So I would have to say that that's not as a bizarre choice. Although Tito Santana allegedly has like 40 kids and he's a hairdresser, so still a babyface in a lot of ways. But I'll go with Hulk Hogan as probably the best pick from the lot there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hard to argue there.
Stu will immediately get you to kick off with the heels. We have Ravishing Rick Rude, we have Mr. Perfect, and we have Roddy Piper. Thoughts on those three?
I'll say that the baby faces of the era didn't have to really know how to wrestle, so to speak, but the bad guys did. In order for the good guys to look good, the bad guys had to bump around and make the good guys look really good. And so kudos to all three teams for choosing not only bad guys that got a lot of heat, as they call it, but also guys that could work. Three great workers here. Mr. Perfect, obviously being one of the greatest of all time, as far as in-ring work. And then you have Ravishing Rick Rude, which he could work, but he also had a great look, but he also had a terrible temper in real life. Rick Rude could probably be an episode of Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
He's pulled guns on people in the back before. I mean, that is a bad guy.
Wow.
However, I would go with Roddy Piper as probably team three seems to be really taking their vitamins, saying their prayers, doing their cocaine. Roddy Piper, probably, outside of Ric Flair, who, would be my choice here. But Roddy Piper, he's the foil for Hulk Hogan at that first WrestleMania. He's the foil for Hulk Hogan in the MTV Michigas with Cyndi Lauper that started this whole rock and wrestling craze. Roddy Piper probably is the best heel of the 80s. He's got to be, right? But ironically, and I'm kind of contradicting myself here, Piper, who I just said was the best heel by 87, Piper's one of the biggest baby faces in wrestling from 87 on. So while it worked for Andre, my Andre argument, I'm going to erase what I said. Say I don't care that Piper was a good guy in 87, because even when he was a good guy, he still wrestled the same way, and he was still sort of a bad guy even when he was a good guy. So just when you thought you had all the answers, I've changed the questions. I'll tag.
Quote you, Stu, that is BS.
Nug, some thoughts on some of those choices?
Piper's my favorite. I got the big rubber one right up here, still with the kilt on. Piper's the greatest, one of the best bad guys of all time. And I love Rick Rude and I love Mr. Perfect, two guys that could work and bump and make anybody look like $1 million. One of the most important things to be as a heel is to be so hated that no matter who comes out, the crowd's going to cheer them to beat you up.
Yeah.
Right.
And there is not that these aren't good picks, but I think an omission on the list for somebody in the 80s who only was ever a bad guy and everyone wanted to see him get beat up, and that's the Iron Sheik. The Iron Sheik should have been on this list somewhere. If there was a team 4, I imagine team 4 would have picked the Iron Sheik.
Probably a better choice than yes, I agree with you. Iron Sheik.
Our producer Frank, he did chime in and say Iron Sheik should have been picked. So that's
100%.
Yeah.
That classic 1980s I'm not from here bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. When just for the uninformed, the three of us basically, when you say that a guy can bump, what does that mean?
Oh, that means he can go ahead, Stu.
He can do lots of cocaine in his hotel room, tons of it, all night long.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
And the bad guys, it's not allegedly, it's true. And the bad guys could do it better than the good guys. But no, bump around. A bump is when you, as my partner here would tell you, it's, hitting the mat, taking a bump, you're taking bumps. And, Mr. Perfect is a great example of somebody who was one of the best bump guys of all time. But most of the heels were Ric Flair, Ted DiBiase,
Greg Valentine.
Oh my God, Greg Valentine, one of the absolute best. He'd get a punch to the jaw and he'd react like he got shot with a cannon.
He did that fall on his face every time.
Him and Ric Flair both.
Him and Flair.
That's
was so good.
Yeah. Shawn Michaels in a later generation became like the legendary bump guy.
Who's the bump guy now? Ziggler?
Yeah, probably. Although he's even getting older.
I know.
It's sad, guys. It's really sad.
No, we're gonna bring it back to life. Possibly. So Nug, we'll let you lead off on the female wrestler. We have Wendy Richter, we have the Fabulous Moolah, and we have Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah, I gotta say, Wendy Richter is a perfect pick. With her and Cyndi Lauper brought wrestling to a younger mainstream on MTV with a big match against the Fabulous Moolah. Wendy Richter only recently getting her flowers for how much importance she has in the world of women's wrestling in the 80s. And Moolah, well known, not a nice person, but very prominent. Also, another person who was drawn on the Hulk Hogan cartoon, which means she's a perfect bad guy. Anybody that could be made into a cartoon is a great bad guy. My only issue with the picks on this list is Miss Elizabeth, who arguably is the most popular one, but never wrestled a match until 2000. So
controversial.
Not a wrestler.
So
That's my only complaint. That's my only complaint.
I would say that Brett Favre made more completions in 2023 than Elizabeth wrestled matches in the 80s.
Thank you.
Equally, actually, 0. Fabulous Moolah is probably the consummate name of wrestling from the 1910s to the whatever. But Moolah's she's a piece of work.
Yes.
I'm going to go with Wendy Richter as well, even though Moolah had a soft spot for my heart until we learned, until I worked outside of the ring and learned who she really was.
Can you believe they were going to name a memorial battle royal after her, and then every woman in WWE plus retired women went, no.
Oh, really?
Can't do that. Yeah. And then WWE, like the front office always loved Moolah. So they're like, we're going to do this for her. And all the wrestlers went, you can't. And they're like, oh, why?
Yeah.
Oh, because she's awful. Okay.
I will say, though, to the point made about Wendy Richter, the person who really deserves credit for all of this wrestling boom is Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
Who was the biggest star in the world. Her and Mr. T were the two biggest pop culture stars. And they're, Vince McMahon got them both in for WrestleMania. And that's part of the draw. People who didn't know what wrestling was certainly knew who Mr. T and Cyndi Lauper were. Captain Lou Albano gets some credit there that he never gets. I'm going to give it to him on this podcast.
Can you imagine today if all of a sudden Ariana Grande went, I'm going to wrestle?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? And the world would go bananas. And that's what happened with Cyndi Lauper. She was
so
current Grammy Award winning popular music star who'd like to slum it managing Wendy Richter.
She was great too. She was
phenomenal.
Really natural. But I will go with Wendy Richter for this reason also, even though her run didn't last very long. It was certainly memorable. And there was a time, maybe it was like only 5 minutes, but where her and Hulk Hogan were almost on equal footing for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a good 5 minutes for Wendy Richter.
What was there was Cyndi Lauper and Captain Lou Albano had this a falling out, was it? What ended up, where did that end up?
I'll set it up if my partner wants to knock it down, but Cyndi Lauper had cast Captain Lou Albano and the Girls Just Want to Have Fun video.
Yeah, I remember that.
They became great friends. It came to the attention of the WWE higher ups. Vince's father, I'll rewind, was always against celebrity participation for some reason, unless it was like Muhammad Ali. But Andy Kaufman approached WWF first. They said no, thank you. Rocky III with Hulk Hogan to be in Rocky III. Vince's father fired Hulk because he wanted to be in Rocky III. Depending on who you listen to, Hulk says he quit. But Vince's son had he understood what was going on with MTV and celebrity. And so, Cyndi Lauper got involved. Captain Lou, Roddy Piper, Hulk Hogan. She was right in the mix. I'll let my partner.
Yeah. So between her and Captain Lou, Vince Jr. asked if she wanted to do something. And she said, well, Lou's such a good bad guy. It'd be great if he got mad at me. And then he could manage the Fabulous Moolah and I'll manage whoever. And then that ended up being Wendy Richter, and it came out of that. But then after that was all over, Captain Lou apologized at Madison Square Garden, and Cyndi presented him with a gold record in a frame. Roddy Piper interrupted, took the gold record, smashed it over Captain Lou, and off we are to the races for WrestleMania and the Rock and Wrestling Connection. It's phenomenal TV.
I love everything in wrestling where it's like, I got this gold sledgehammer for you. And everyone's just I guess he's just going to take that back to his dressing room and nothing's going to happen.
because I'm an English major and I'm well aware of Chekhov's gun. You don't show a gun in the first act without having it go off in the second act. Anytime I see a wrestler show up on his brand new motorcycle, I'll go, Chekhov's motorcycle. Something's going to happen. It's going to get smashed or backed over or ridden by someone it shouldn't be. Hey, I got a birthday cake. Chekhov's cake. It's coming.
I just gonna jot down that we have Chekhov mentioned in this as
Thank
probably
you.
our 26th episode or something like that.
That's right.
We are peaking right now.
So let's jump into Stu. We actually do have entrance music for you.
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have the Demolition, we have Pomp and Circumstance, and we have Unstable. Those are we had the Demolition, of course, for the Demolition, the tag team. We have Matt and Pomp and Circumstance, Randy Savage, of course, and Unstable was Ultimate Warrior. Thoughts on those songs, Stu? You probably missed a bunch. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah. Well, music has been such a big part of the wrestling that we're talking about today. And imagine a world where the music wasn't even a part of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard to imagine, because now every wrestler, even the referee, has a theme song. Even, like the ring announcer has a theme song. Everybody has a song. So I would say historically, I don't see any of those like early groundbreaking songs. I would say Hulk Hogan's Real American, but before that, another one, Bites the Dust or the Freebirds or one of these types of things. But I will take a look at the songs that you guys have picked here. The Pomp and Circumstance, obviously synonymous with Macho Man Randy Savage. I would say that is a classic wrestling song. But that's not it. Even though it's used in wrestling, the same way that Ric Flair's theme song is used in wrestling, it wasn't originally created for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And also, other people had used Pomp and Circumstance before Macho Man Randy Savage, obviously, but he's the greatest to have. You hear that song, you think of Macho Man Randy Savage. Mm-hmm. It's a great choice, but it's not going to win in my view just because of those technicalities. I would say that the Ultimate Warrior theme, I didn't even know that was the title of it, so I just learned something new here. But that's a song that, like, when it hit, and if you were of a certain age, you would explode, scream, and be so excited. It's very simple. Anybody could play it on the guitar. I think he's going to pull out a guitar right now and play it.
No.
Goes a little something like this.
But I will say that Ultimate Warrior, he didn't really, the importance of that song happens to me in 1990 on the jacket that I'm actually wearing right now.
Hey, there it is.
In Toronto, Canada, when he beat Hulk Hogan, that song hit at the end of the night. I'm going to say the Demolition song is literally the best. It is the best song, and whoever chose it is the smartest person in the room. It is the best song. It's Rick Derringer penned it, who also did Hulk Hogan's Real American Song. A Demolition, who were brought into WWF at the time as an answer to the Road Warriors, who wanted too much money. They eventually would come, but Vince made his own Road Warriors, and what could have been a really terrible thing ended up being an awesome thing. And Demolition are awesome. True story in fantasy, all of my fantasy sports teams have been called Demolition. So, they are the best team. And that song is amazing. And if you didn't know, just from listening to the song, Demolition's names are Axe and Smash. But Pain and Destruction are their middle names. You would know that if you listen to the
lyrics of the song.
Get the lyrics in front of it. You're going to learn a lot about those two guys.
Yes.
Now, what are your thoughts on that music?
So Demolition came off of Pile Driver.
Yes.
Which is here. This is the second wrestling album. Somewhere in this stack of records, I have the first and second wrestling album as a 2-pack on red and yellow vinyl.
Beautiful.
The first wrestling album was covers. It was just all like wrestlers singing cover songs.
Oh.
This was all of this was handwritten stuff by Jimmy Hart or one other person. Dave Wolf and Rick Derringer were involved, but Demolition's on this. But this, Girls in Cars, there's the Strike Force.
There you go.
Girls in Cars is on this. Pile Driver by Coco Beware. Jive Soul Bro by Slick.
Underrated song.
The greatest song. Also the theme song for a fellow we're going to talk about a little later on. Crank It Up by Jimmy Hart. Stand Back sung by Vince McMahon. Arguably the worst of all time. Also on this album is a song that I think should be on this list. Not that the songs you picked weren't great. Honky Tonk Man. How do you not pick the song sung by the Honky Tonk Man where all he does is talk about how great he is? That's the whole song. And then he would sing on the album. He sang, You Ought to Hear Me Sing the Snakeskin Blues, which was a shot at Jake the Snake Roberts. Yeah. But later on, when he was fighting somebody else, if it was Brutus Beefcake, he'd say, You ought to hear me sing the Beefcake Blues. So it was always changing to take a shot at whoever he was against. Honky Tonk Man, hands down,
Yeah.
still the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time and the greatest theme song of all time.
But
we missed that one. We missed that one.
Who do you pick as out of the three that were there?
Well, I totally agree that Pomp and Circumstance. I love that now they play that song and people go, "Oh, Macho Man," instead of "Oh, Graduation."
Yeah.
But Demolition is, Ultimate Warrior, yes, but Demolition has lyrics and they're hilarious, so I have to go with Demolition.
All right, excellent. All right,
and also they added Crush later. So it's Axe, Smash, and Crush.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, did they update the lyrics?
No.
We should just cancel the show and have instead me and him just go, like showing wrestling garbage that we have.
Here's cool stuff, guys.
I have so much stuff off camera. I'm afraid to stand up and
me too. I was joking around with I'm setting this up and my wife's like, "Where do you want to set up? Which way do you want to face?" And I go, "Well, I'm going to show the stuff we're talking about instead of the championship belt I have from a company that went out of business and they didn't want it back."
Well, here's a gentleman that is showing a huge wrestling collection, wearing a Crush shirt, has an Akeem figure in the back, and has a wife. So there you go.
It can happen. It's possible.
There's hope for all of us.
That's exactly true. Perfect. Final category, Nuggle, you kick this off. Worst gimmick, we have IRS, Mr. T boxing, Roddy Piper, and Akeem the African Dream.
Can I love him. So, is it the worst? It still is. Is it a white guy pretending to be black? Yes. Is it a guy that is perhaps taking a shot at the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, in his mannerisms and the way he talks? Absolutely. Was he an effective bad guy as the one-man gang and then turned into this nonsense? Yes. It's terrible. Also, he went from looking like a biker gang, a one-man biker gang, and turning into this giant mustard-colored nonsense. Yeah, it's terrible. It's one of the worst. IRS, hysterical. This was moving into the time where everybody had a second career, a wrestling prison guard, a wrestling prisoner, a wrestling garbage man, a wrestling plumber. They had all these guys that were like, "I'm a wrestler, but since I don't make enough money, I do bail bondsman stuff on the side." It was just a weird time, but this is right up in the top one of the worst gimmicks of all time.
Stu, thoughts?
Let's just go through this real quick. Mr. T boxing. On paper, it's a good idea. He was convincing in Rocky 3 as a boxer. So, if kids are used to seeing him boxing, why not put him in the ring as a boxer? Although there wasn't tremendous success with Mr. T as a boxer, because as much as he didn't really pull his punches in professional wrestling, he equally didn't do so when he was boxing. So it was difficult probably for the guys to work with him.
Who was he up against? An actual Golden Gloves boxer.
Yeah.
Wow, that's true. Jeez.
So yeah, I don't know if that is the worst gimmick, Mr. T as a boxer. I'm gonna say IRS is somebody that it's pretty a racist kind of undertones. He wore a yarmulke to the ring. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, he didn't. IRS though, that's pretty bad. To come up with that name, Irwin R. Scheister, that's very much my partner here, my esteemed partner here, pointed out. Not only did everybody have a side to hustle during that era and had I'm a garbage man, but I'm also a wrestler. I'm a hockey player. I'm also a wrestler. But some of them also had what is that? An acronym? Is that what that's called?
Yes. When you think about Dr. Isaac Yankem.
Yeah,
the dentist.
They have people were really just using acronyms to make names, and Vince McMahon probably thought that was hysterical. It's hard to argue that IRS is the worst though, because he had a lot of success as in that character, more success than when he used in WWF anyway. When he used his real name, which is Mike Rotunda, and he did wrestle and won the tag team championship and all that kind of stuff. But as IRS, everyone remembers this guy. Yeah. And he was an Intercontinental champion, a tag team champion, and he was a character that people remember, that quote. And as a kid, I didn't understand why the tax guys were bad.
Yeah.
But wrestling taught me that they were.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty bad. Let's look at Akeem for a second. It's hard for me to say he's the worst because I love it so much.
Me too.
I own one Hasbro figure, and it's Akeem. He's the great. He was so good. And again, as a kid, you're not, you don't really understand why it's bad when you're a kid. You just think you see this guy and you're into it.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon was so petty to create this Akeem character that's what makes it so great. You know, he was going after Dusty Rhodes, who was the American Dream, and Akeem was the African Dream. And Dusty Rhodes did speak, with certain and use certain mannerisms that a lot of people thought were would think are problematic. Akeem took that and times it by a million.
Yeah.
It's hard. This is a really tough one, guys. I would say all three choices are tough. It's tough for me to make a decision here. So I can't conceivably say Akeem is the worst because I love him so much. So by default, I'm either going to go Mr. T or IRS here. I don't know.
I want to add, not only did Vince McMahon hate Dusty Rhodes at the time so much that he turned Akeem into this, but Dusty Rhodes' real name is Virgil, and that's why he named the $1 Million Man's butler Virgil.
Right,
wow. Right. Also, Mike Rotundo was so forgettable in the U.S. Express as a tag team champion with Barry Windham that when they left, Vince took their music and gave it to Hulk Hogan, and nobody noticed, and Hogan took Real American to the moon.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
That was their theme song?
That was their theme song for a hot second when they were tag team champions, and then they both left. Hogan just was like, I'm a Real American, and everybody went, you sure are, Hulkster.
You bet.
I just wanted to, I just would love to be taken live, fly on the wall, whatever, to the meeting where they present the idea to the one-man gang. Listen, this is our idea. You're going to be Akeem the African Dream. You're a white guy who's going to be Akeem the African Dream, take you through the process of all the things we're going to do. The immediate reaction from him, what would that have been? Like, awesome, or like, what?
If he was smart, which I can't say he wasn't smart, but if he was smart, his answer was, yes, sir, Mr. McMahon, hand me the money.
Yeah.
As all of them were at that time. One Man Gang started in the 70s as like a hippie, long-haired biker character. He had super long hair, and he wrestled with the evil Kevin Sullivan as his manager, and he did all this stuff. And then eventually, when the times changed, he shaved the Mr. T mohawk into his hair and put like a tattoo in the middle of it, and he looked even angrier and badder than ever. And then when he turned into Akeem, he just grew his hair out a little bit, covered up in tattoos, looked like a normal dude with a beard and a haircut. Like,
just a normal white dude playing
than as a fat kid growing up, loving like Bam Bam Bigelow and Akeem and the Big Boss Man, and then having One Man Gang who were like, yeah, we can be tough, turn into this, and you're like, what are you doing?
And also like the vignette that they introduced him is so crazy. He's like in like a homeless encampment or something, and like
they burn his costume in a dumpster.
Yeah.
He finds his African roots in a Chicago alley.
Yeah, like literally, it's like burning oil barrels and like people like staying warm around it, and like Akeem comes out.
We should definitely be linking to that video on YouTube, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. And Slick narrating the whole thing in his pimp character. Good Lord.
I do love Akeem, so I don't give a damn. I love him.
Okay, Stu, you'll have to live with that. And I think with that, we'll definitely link to that. We were also mentioning that when the Ultimate Warrior died, a person as a tribute on YouTube released a 1-hour version of his theme song, and it just goes and goes. It's like,
what better way to remember him than with an hour-long version of this song?
Well, those of us that were at WrestleMania 6 heard it for an hour because like that's as much as he ran to the ring at the end of the night, it probably took him an hour to get from the ring back to the locker room. So the song was probably on
the hour version.
That's the only guy I could ever think of that got like, they always say when you're out of breath, you get gassed. He would get gassed before he wrestled because he ran full tilt to the ring.
And he would also get gassed when he like took a needle in his ass before.
Thank you so much, Stu. Allegedly. So, okay, it's come to this moment. Maybe collectively between the two of you, there are 5 different categories. Maybe there's some scoring in there. However you want to decide, which of these 3 teams do you see as the champion team?
I'm just gonna go look at one more.
You think, I might just do a quick review if that's okay.
I'm mentally assigning points.
Okay, here we go. So just reviewing. Team 1 is baby faces Tito Santana, heel Ravishing Rick Rude, female wrestler Wendy Richter. Entrance music, The Demolition, worst gimmick IRS. Team 2, Babyface. Andre the Giant, heel Mr. Perfect, female wrestler The Fabulous Moolah. Entrance music, Pomp and Circumstance, worst gimmick Mr. T, Boxing Piper. Team 3, Babyface, Hulk Hogan, heel Roddy Piper, female wrestler Miss Elizabeth. Entrance music, Unstable, and worst gimmick Akeem, the African Dream.
You gotta love that guy.
It's shocking. It's still shocking. I'm sorry. What are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I've done my points. I've done my calculations.
Stu, you feeling comfortable?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable saying who I would pick as a winner. I wonder if we're going to come up with the same answer.
I think so. I used a point system,
Okay.
but again, this is not a competition. This is an exhibition.
Whereas I used a blind eye test. I used a blind eye test for mine, and I'm thinking the category overall was 80s wrestling, and I'm just looking at the names that people picked and like what is the most consummate collection of 80s wrestlers on a list, and one team stands slightly above the others in my opinion.
Who do you got there, Stu?
I would go with Team 3 due to the fact that you've got Hogan and Piper, Elizabeth Warrior, and Akeem. That's a pretty good collection of 80s stars. Hogan and Piper obviously being the two biggest. You win those two categories, it's pretty much a cakewalk rest of the way.
Yeah.
No, do you concur?
Yeah, Team 3, the only way it could have been better was if Junkyard Dog was on that list. That's honestly the only way it could have been better. He was a babyface that never won a title and was loved everywhere he went. So I got to go Team 3 just based on my points calculations.
Well, I know very little about wrestling, folks, but I did just win in this competition. Slamming Mike and Matt to the mat. Mike and Matt to the mat.
Well, you know
Mike,
what? I just want to interject. You didn't let us finish.
Sorry.
The person on team number 3 is clearly someone who doesn't know a lot about wrestling.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because they're very on the surface with their bullshit answers.
Yes.
Other guys showed some prowess by naming guys like Mr. Perfect and Randy Savage and Fabulous Moolah and Demolition. I'll say that those guys showed that they really could hang with me and my partner if we ever were to tussle. And we'd probably have SJB, who was the winner, be more of like a referee in that match.
Yeah, that's it, Stu, and that's how a heel is born, Stu. Those kind of comments are just stuff you put up on the your dry erase on your billboard.
That's right.
Stu, we're coming for you next. The ship is
sinking.
That's great. That's the kind of motivation I needed. Thank you so much. Fellas, you guys were both fantastic. Great tag team. And if you haven't worked together before, you guys would be perfect.
This is our first time meeting, and I feel like if he wasn't married, we'd probably
that's the thing about wrestling. They always say in wrestling, if you can get thrown together and work together well, it's magic. It's a ballroom dancer from New York and a ballroom dancer from Chicago get together, and they both know the moves, but they've never done them together before, and yet they still know how to do it. And that's me and Stu, ballroom dancing our way through this podcast.
You absolutely are. And when we do a ballroom dancing category, for sure we'll have the both.
That's if I turn the camera this way, it's all ballroom dancing.
If you guys wanted to reprise and do 90s wrestlers, you let us know.
Absolutely.
I think it's time to graduate to 90s and come back around to you two fellas. Stu Stone, Nug Nahrgang, thanks so much for being on This Day in Sports. We're going to definitely have you guys back.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Frank's coming back. Iron Sheik. Yep, I think that's probably right. Well, we definitely learned what we do and don't know. Most of it is we don't know.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was fun to open it up. And I think that's what we got to kind of do on the show is to challenge ourselves with some sports we don't really know.
Absolutely.
And then bring someone on who knows a lot, and then they can just destroy us. Fantastic. Well, there we go. We have successfully pulled off a wrestling draft and a fun show. Yes. I'll say fun show. Really We're going to put some fun logos on Matt's hat in post.
Yeah.
So look for those. I'm Sandy Joe Bevins.
I'm Matt Kippen.
I'm Mike Shera.
This has been This Day in Sports. This was September 22nd. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Got really excited at the end there.